Oh, hold on. I need to share this on the social media.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to our third and unfortunately last virtual composition masterclass as part of the Elizabeth Henriksen Mentorship Program. My name is Megan DiGiorgio. I'm the Director of Education Advancement for Boulanger Initiative. If this is your first time joining us for one of these masterclasses, what this mentorship program is 3 early stage composers who were selected and paired up with our 3 professional composer mentors for about 6 months, where they get to work on all kinds of different things. This is just one little facet of all of the incredible work they've been doing over the last 6 months. So for each of our 3 mentors, we have one of these master classes where the mentor gets to take a look at the music of all 3 mentees, and we also get to benefit by hearing their music and hearing their feedback. So we will get to that in just a second. Before we start, I just want to draw your attention to a couple upcoming dates. There is another program kind of within the mentorship program that caters towards a different group of students, so younger students, ages 13 to 18. And these are our virtual solo instrument composition workshops, where 13 to 18-year-old young women or gender marginalized composers get to submit 1-minute pieces for different solo instruments, get to hear them performed live, and then get feedback from the performer as well as one of our composer mentors live streamed just like this. So we have 2 more of those coming up. One is on November 23rd, and those will be pieces for cello with Inti, and one on December 7th, and those will be pieces for alto saxophone with one of our other mentors, Alexandra Gardner. Those both take place at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And we'll be broadcast in the same places that you're watching right now, so either YouTube or Facebook. So I hope you can join us for that. And I think that's all I need to talk to you about before we just get into it. So our first mentee whose music we're going to be listening to is Diana Link. So I will let you 2 just have at it.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Happy it's cold. Yeah, so the piece you submitted, Ineffable, which is a great title.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've always been told that we should start by listening to music, and maybe I think that that's probably a good place to sit with it a little bit and then form some questions afterward. Cursor, could we listen to the piece?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Of course. Wow. Yeah, I got that. That really the forte section is so beautiful. Yeah, could you tell me a little bit about the piece and kind of where you were when you were writing it, what the kind of context of the collaboration with noise was, and like how you came to some of these sounds. I know that's a lot of questions, so like whatever, throwing at the wall, whatever you kind of want to pick up.
Definitely. So this is a very special piece to me. I've been having a really hard time this past year. I think everybody has in their own way. But I feel like it's kind of expressed itself in my music, and my music has been increasingly more personal and intimate, and this is kind of like the biggest version of like my music has changed a lot aesthetically, and like this is kind of like the big piece that's come out of that, and it's been really scary for me to like be going through kind of this aesthetic change as a musician, because I haven't necessarily had all of the support that I've necessarily hoped I would get with like changing aesthetics and whatnot, because it's very different than what I usually do. But this particular piece I wrote about a year ago, like in the right in the middle of like everything, and it's kind of like an expression of like my depression and anxiety throughout the pandemic. And so yeah, it's a very personal piece, but I wrote most of it like at 1 a.m. When I can't sleep at night. So that's kind of like when I wrote it. But yeah, so that's kind of what it's about.
That's awesome. As someone who was writing at 1 a.m. last night, I feel you. Yeah, sometimes it just is the only time it'll flow. Yeah, that's really, there is like a really kind of depth of character with the piece, because there's this like really, it feels like an intense focus on these kinds of additive spaces and like just like minute kind of details that really kind of change everything about the kind of sonority or something that we're hearing, and is and it really kind of both like melodic and like really timbral way, like with like the kinds of colors we're getting with like some of those kind of proximity tones and beats and stuff. So I mean, I know that we're in this program together, but forgive me, like what kind of aesthetic position were you coming from before kind of coming here?
Like very, very, very melodic and tonal, like just very like, yeah, that kind of world. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, I guess this is where we start inquiring. So is this still melodic and tonal to you? Like, I mean, because those are such kind of, categories.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is, but like in a different way. Like my approach to writing has also kind of changed, because like before I like would mostly like come up with like a melody or whatever and like base the whole piece off of that. But like this, like I've been more thinking about like emotion and like emotional arc mapping and trying to like recreate that with musical tones. And so like it's not as dissonant as like some other music, but like compared to like other like previous pieces of mine, it's very dissonant, and it doesn't have like quite as a like distinct like melodic part to it.
Cool. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's like my question sometimes with dissonance, because I always think of dissonant, I think, in school when we learn about like preparing things, everything that happened in there felt very prepared. And so like I wasn't kind of like reading like dissonance. I was just like, ooh, we've shifted, and suddenly like, we've seen another part of this, and it kind of informs something different about the kind of the texture or timbre that you're kind of like group wise as well, that you were kind of going for. Yeah, I mean, I guess one thing that I had a question about, just kind of, listening to the piece and feeling that end, be kind of so reflective of the beginning. And, we all, ABA is a lovely form. We all love it. I guess I was just wondering, like, I just knowing that I haven't looked at the score that deeply, is there kind of a difference in the material that happens at the end from the material that happens in the beginning, or is it like a reflection or
yeah, I mean, it's very similar to the beginning. It's kind of a reflection, but it like does like change key a little bit, like it's like up a step or down a step. I haven't looked at this in a while, but it's a different key center, so it like is like the same but different.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, so I think one thing I was noticing is like where the kind of touches and details were coming in. And for anyone watching, I was also reading on the score, so maybe I see more and referencing things that maybe you can't see. But as I think one thing I was kind of looking for a little bit was just like a way in which the kind of arc that you make of like this like sotto voce to like kind of fuller tone and back to wavering stuff, that there would be kind of a I'm trying to say, like another shade or something there, where like something like an alternate fingering or something like a little bit of motion or a little bit of agitation, or or like a sneaky cheeky multiphonic or something might have come through, and like it was totally like it kept its character so much throughout that I like understood that kind of compositional decision. But I think with such a kind of is the word austere correct? I don't know, like a kind of like just like really kind of calm focus on these like minute changes. I think I was like, oh, is it going to push against its boundaries at all? Which like of course it did with that kind of really beautiful massive section where they were all really kind of going for it. But yeah, I guess I was just wondering like where like whether there was more detail that you wanted there, or whether it was like it was like I just want that. I
hadn't really thought too much about that, but I think that would like be cool and like add like more different like tones into that. I just hadn't really thought about doing that.
No, that I think that makes sense. I think it's this thing with chamber music sometimes where like maybe again these are like whatever disclaimer, like everything I say is whatever, but I feel like with chamber music sometimes there's like I think with like such kind of complete and kind of large movements of like sound but kind of homogeneous, that works really well for like large ensemble. But like I think with chamber music sometimes I kind of I kind of look for a little bit of treatment of them as like interacting within the ensemble, as well as kind of focusing on on like a group texture or blend or something. Anyway, so that's just like where the comment came from, not necessarily that it needs to do any of that. Yeah, I mean, I guess one other thing is just like having listened to Noise before, I know that they're kind of quite virtuosic with like what they're capable of as an ensemble. Was there kind of a what like when you were writing it, did that kind of enter at all? Were you like the virtuosity of quietness, or like or did, I guess just asking, like, did anything about the group and the way in which they have a kind of artistic and an ensemble identity, did that affect how you were writing the piece?
Yeah, I mean, I did write it specifically for Noise, so I was like kind of like trying to think about like their like aesthetic as a group when writing it for them. So
cool. Okay, I'm gonna take one. Oh yeah. So I mean, there are two things, two words that I kind of just wanted to ask about, which were just like the title itself. So like like where is where is it? And also this really gorgeous like cover art, like, and like, you know, I don't know. So I have a million questions. So 1 is title, 2 is cover art, and 3 is how are those things interacting with your piece, both like in like a surface level and then like a, you know, like interpretive level. I don't know.
Yeah, so the title kind of came from so I'm kind of a nerd, and sometimes when I get bored I like read the dictionary. And
I
yeah,
feel
it's a
it.
good place to find titles of pieces. Uh, but anyway, I don't know, I was just having a really hard time with this piece. Like it just was a hard piece for me to write, and then when I needed to title it, I just like was kind of a loss for words because I was like, well, what do I call this? Because I don't know, like it just was like this massive like an emotional arc, and I was like, I don't know what to call it. So like I settled on the word ineffable, because ineffable, the word means like it's something that's indescribable by words, and so it like you it's just something that you can't articulate. And I felt like that kind of went well with kind of how I was feeling about the pandemic, with just like feeling overwhelmed by emotions and not really having a clear way to articulate all of what I was feeling. Um, so that's kind of where the title came from. The cover art, I made that myself. I like found the picture online, but I really enjoy like designing cover pages. I think it's fun to do. Um, and I was just really taken aback by that picture, because like it just kind of was like dark and mysterious, and I feel like it really set the mood well for kind of like what I was going for with the piece.
Totally. That's so that's lovely. Yeah, is that like I think like looking at the cover art and like after kind of hearing it, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like feeling that, you know, like there's a kind of strong creative and artistic like I don't know node or something with all of these things interacting, that I think like made a really just really effective piece and really really beautiful. Hmm. Let me think. I'm sorry. I'm going to take 1 second and look at the score one more time. Yeah, I'm. You know, I guess like one question is just you know, I think sometimes when we're talking about emotion and we like and then we have kind of like structure, it's always like a really like interesting to me to see what isn't there and how that is or isn't related to that emotion. So like for example, like in this piece, like I don't feel like we have like a lot of again like agitation or runs, or, you know, like all of the kinds of like really kind of filling in the dots kind of stuff, which like is like not necessary, but like, you know, but like in the idea of like this kind of huge indescribable feeling, did I guess did that was that feeling smooth to you, like in the sense that the piece was smooth, like felt quite smooth. Yeah, I don't you can tell me if that question doesn't make sense, but yeah, but if it does, please feel free to answer.
No, definitely. I think that makes sense. Yeah, I was like within in relation to this piece. Let me see if I can find it on my desk. I don't know. I was thinking a lot, especially like how I was feeling like before going to bed, in particular around the pandemic. I mean, it was like also just like about like general feelings. But I did it. Where is it? Yeah, when I was like trying to think about writing this piece, I don't know, like my approach to writing was very, very different. I drew this picture. I know it's like kind of abstract, but
Mhm.
that's kind of like what I was thinking about when writing the piece, was kind of like just like this like kind of like cloud of just,
Yeah.
and it was just kind of like, I think in colors a lot too. I wouldn't say that I have synesthesia or anything. I wouldn't say that, but I do like think about colors in relation to emotions a lot. So I was thinking a lot about like what the feeling of the color red would feel like going to like the color purple to the color blue. I don't know.
Mm.
I know it's a, like I don't know. It makes sense to me, but yeah. Yeah.
I think looking at the drawing, it makes total sense. Like again, and that kind of like gradation of color and change was definitely something that we like felt in the piece, like very kind of viscerally. And okay, so I know we're kind of a minute or something. You know, we're kind of nearing the end of our little time. But is there I guess like I don't know. I feel like I always like latch on to like visual things and talking about them, but like in the sense that we're looking at like a two-dimensional cloud or something, right? Like we're seeing this gradation, and like as we look at the page, we look left to right and top down as people who probably read English, I'm sure. Is there a way in which like you imagine that dimensionalized, like because I kind of heard it in the piece a little bit, but then I also can see like looking at the score how that gradation happened. So yeah, was there a kind of dimensional part of like how you interacted with the materials?
Yeah, I really like thinking about the cloud. I was really thinking about like this whole idea of like expanding outward and like kind of like a three-dimensional like scope of like smoke that like expands in like all directions. So it's kind of like flowing like that. Yeah. So
Totally. Okay, so one little mix-up that we have today is I invited our other mentees to ask questions at the end of our each little time. So I think either Connie or Julie or both might hop on and ask you a question, Diana. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Hi. I love this piece. I was wondering like how you, Diana, since you talk a lot about like the visual aspect and color, like how you connect that to like volume / loudness, like the dynamics in the piece. I was like, dang, how many Fs are like in this section right now? Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, would love to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, definitely dynamics were a big thing I was thinking about in this piece. And it was a little bit hard when I was working with the performers because, like, I don't know. I've been noticing recently that composers and performers kind of like interpret things differently. And sometimes composers have like their own little language of like how they interpret stuff. And sometimes that's not how everybody else does it. And that's kind of what I've been realizing. So I kind of like developed this thing called microdynamics, if you will. And so I just kind of went crazy with like pianos and fortes and blah, 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 blah. And when I like showed it to real musicians, they were like, well, there's only like this many dynamics. I was like, no, I want to be like very specific about all these dynamics because it like, I don't know, because it like very like that's like almost like more important than the notes is the dynamics in this piece because the notes don't really change that much. It's mostly the same two notes. And so the dynamics are like the dynamics. It's more of a piece about dynamics than notes almost. But yeah, so I don't know if that really answered your question, but yeah.
Yeah, like do you find that you communicate better with like the microdynamic, or would you write like red going to purple? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, do you focus more on like the text, like words in your score?
Yeah, in the actual score, I just like wrote like mostly like just like dynamic things, but that would be an interesting idea to like put colors in there because I do like think about colors a lot when I'm writing and like the colors change and I mean that might be an interesting thing to think about, like putting those like color indications in the score. I don't know quite how other musicians would interpret that because again everybody interprets colors and music differently, so but that would be a interesting idea to explore.
Yeah, thanks.
Heck yeah. Sorry, just to say one thing about that really really cool exchange. I think that it's very legitimate to say that like the kind of main expressive medium of your piece is dynamics, like in this particular section, and that's like the kind of core focus of it. And then the second thing is just, yeah, I think like color is such a strange, like if you talk about color to musicians, like, or like to people who interpret scores, they will say something completely different to like your composition teachers. But then like they will say something completely different to like, you know, like new music person versus classical music person. And like suddenly like, you know, that kind of expressive communicative medium just like suddenly like becomes too complex to interact. But I think that that would be really beautiful, especially like if everyone's like, what's the color red? But like, what's like red that isn't just like fiery? Like, what's a like, you know, like all that kind of stuff. So anyway, sorry. It's exciting to me. Julie, did you want to ask your question, or I know that we're kind of a little bit over stuff. Question mark. That's okay. Keep going. Okay. Oh no. Yes, please. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Please.
Cool. My question was just about, yeah, I'm always so curious about people's process and just how you arrive at the decisions that you made. And so I was just curious about actually writing, especially some of the harmonic changes in the piece and how you came to that, whether you were like, maybe like recording in different lines, because I know you sing. and also play, maybe you're like playing in some lines, and or maybe you were like sitting at the piano, or maybe you were using software or something. I was just curious about how you like came to that material.
Definitely. Yeah, it was kind of a combination of everything you just said, of like singing like into my phone, and then like playing like some like chords on the piano so I can like hear stuff better, and then like kind of like using my notation software. I lean on that a little bit more than I should, but to like kind of hear the timings a little bit better. Yeah, it was kind of a combination of all of this stuff.
Cool, interesting. It kind of sounded like that, but I always just like to know. And I think, you know, the software that we use for notation is a tool too, you know, and if it plays back and it helps, like, I don't know. Something to
One
that.
thing I will say that was kind of to my detriment about that, and like I should know better because I'm a wind player, so like I should know better. But I like kind of just put in like these massive long note passages without necessarily being thoughtful about breathing. So that was a little bit of a challenge to remember that wind players need to breathe, and that's like an important thing. Yeah.
But they could circular breathe sometimes.
Yeah.
They'll figure out how to breathe. You know, that's their job to do. Yours is to create the beautiful piece. Okay, I know that that's the spicy one. So, amazing. You're muted.
Thank you for, I was just talking to no one. Yeah, beautiful piece. I just had, this isn't even a question. It's just the moment in your piece when suddenly all of the performers were, you know, attacking together, you know, rather than everything being staggered. That was suddenly just like a, wow, you know, sort of moment. Very, very cool. So speaking of breathing, this is a great segue. It was almost like you all did this on purpose. So we're going to go on to our next piece, which is, so we're going to bring Julie back on stage, who just left, but there she is. All right, and go right ahead.
Hello.
Hey.
Amazing. So I know, if I heard correctly, there is not a recording of this to thingy.
Right.
Okay.
This is a very fresh, incomplete piece.
Yes.
Which I think is always the most exciting to share, even if it's also kind of the most vulnerable to share. But I don't even have like a real title. I don't know what this is. Just it's just a draft.
I like that title. That's a cool title.
There's something about like cannons and also something about breathing, and so yeah, it got smushed in there together.
Very fair. Well, Yeah, well, how, what would be a kind of format that would feel best? Like, I don't know if we need to necessarily like go through every page of the score and be like, so this F sharp, but like could we like maybe like look through, like spend like 10 seconds on each page just to like get an idea, and then if there's anywhere that like, yeah, like what's the vibe?
Yeah, maybe if we just go through, I can like talk through it.
Yeah,
and
please.
Then we'll have like a landscape. So I won't read this out loud, actually, if we want to just go on. Okay, so the beginning, the idea is that the person is feeling their pulse, and that sets the tempo for each one. So they have like, they enter with another musician. Oh, the first person doesn't, but then the second person enters with the first piano, and then going on. And each one is in a slightly different tempo. So if we go on to the next page, and that continues for a while. They're out of sync, and then next page. Yeah, thanks. This just kind of continues along, and it gets to this little part where they kind of like synchronize. So they stop listening to their own tempo and they just try and like get in line. Maybe they repeat like 3 times or something. I don't know exactly how long it will take, but a little bit of time. I will say a little something about this material at the beginning is that it's this 4th, and it feels good to play, but it has a little bit like military vibes to it, like military fanfare that I don't really like. But every time I try to change it, I'm like, that doesn't seem right either. So I'm a little, something about the beginning. I think maybe some preparations on the piano will change it a little bit, but there's something about it that's not quite sitting right yet. Anyway, next page. So then there's a little bit of a pause. Then there are these basically finger stretching exercises where you really like space out your 2 fingers the space of a 5th. Feels really good to do. I don't have the fingering written in there, but that would be a thing that could happen, or maybe they just play it 1 and 5. That's fine too. And this is more like everybody's together, and it's just this kind of like expansive pattern kind of thing. And then next page. And still going. Next page. And you can go to the next page. And one more time to the next page. Not just one more time, but okay. So then it like opens out. It's just like each one is expanding. And then it goes to these little like finger tremolos, which are kind of from this other piano piece, this thing, but it's changed a little in this one. And the idea is that you're doing the tremolo and you're kind of just like following your inhale. And then your exhale, you switch to the next one. And then, so you have like a series of notes you have to get through per breath. But it's pretty loose what time you do that. And so I marked the entrance of each piano with those the little circle rounds, like when you're singing like a really simple canon, it's like, okay, just start here and sing that thing. So I was kind of following that thing. So, okay, next page. And this goes on for a little while, and it's just kind of like blurry and yeah, like using a delay pedal, like a 4 piano delay pedal, but everybody's their own. All right, and then the next page. Thank you, page turner. And then the next page. And so the right hand goes through and does it, and then the left hand goes through and does some stuff. And then while all of that is still kind of hanging, there's this low chordal thing that comes in, and this is all in time. So they're locked up into group time here. And it's just this repeating chord progression. Okay, next page. And they just kind of add on and add on. Next page. And they keep adding. Next page. page. There's a little bit of downward movement kind of coming along, and then next page. And then there starts like this kind of big downward sequence, which is almost like a little Hanon exercise-y kind of thing, where it's just like these, and it just kind of goes down the same way. And the entrances are more staggered, further apart. And yeah, I don't think it's locked up with any kind of breathing thing here, but maybe that will be something to think about because they have variable amounts of repeats they can do. So maybe synchronizing it with that would be helpful. And then the next page, we're almost done. And it keeps going. It's just down. It just goes down, 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 down. It really doesn't change at all. And then at the end, it repeats the last one a few times and changes the tonality of it. And then they go back and they are just playing their pulse, 2, 3, 2, 3, until they're all there. They all finished their downward thing, and then just kind of fade out. And then I feel like I just did like a dramatic interpretive dance, but like with more talking than dancing.
No, I will say I love narration of pieces. I love it. No, I feel like I just saw some like edgy post that was like, if you can talk about the music, then the music hasn't done its job. Or it's not like something. And I was just like, that's not cool. And it's
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this looks really, really beautiful. Do you mind if I ask some conceptual questions and then we relate that to material?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so I mean, I think, well, okay, so you know, it's like the idea of biorhythm, right? We have kind of breath and we have heart. Is there any kind of you know, with the fact that like there's a lot of movement in the piece, and there's a lot of kind of like physicality that you're kind of asking for from the performers. Is there a sense that that pulse might be an amount that changes over time through playing the piece? And if so, is there a kind of like terminal place where an accelerated pulse might help affect the materials?
Yeah, I think that it will change through the piece. Mm-hmm. I have been thinking a lot about like doing things to make it get faster or make it get slower, and also how it's maybe like related to the breathing of like holding your breath, or you know, breathing faster, making your heart faster. And I ended up not doing that. But what I think is interesting, at least for me when I'm playing it, is that in the beginning there's like this anticipation that's kind of like setting your heart rate, and at the end it's kind of like this exertion heart rate. So yeah, I ended up not doing anything that really like tries to affect if it's faster or slower, besides the actual work of just playing the notes.
Totally.
But I think it'll be interesting because I haven't performed it, and performance totally affects your heart rate. I've like played it in the morning with my coffee. I'm like, whoa, I had a lot of coffee. You can really tell. But I know that it will be very different in front of people, and so I don't know exactly what will happen.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I mean, so like one thing, you know, I kind of having encountered breathy, heart ratey things before, you know, like for example, I think like Phyllis Chen maybe did like a heart rate piece with like Claire Chase that was like part of her density thing.
Oh, cool.
And that, you know, and that one though, like you literally can hear the heartbeat like on the stereo, like boom, boom. And so it's like a kind of self-accompaniment kind of conception. Of course, oh my God, what is his name?
Alvin Lucier?
No. Actually, I wasn't actually going to reference Lucier. I was going to reference
okay.
this, oh my God, what's his name? He was in Arcade Fire, and he does like some.
Oh.
But he has an album called Music for Heart and Breath. Oh, Richard Reed Parry. Which like is it? You know, I feel like it kind of foregrounds that kind of perception to kind of like music thing. I'm sorry, I bet there's a better way to say that, but just in the sense that I feel like there's like an idea that like as you're kind of listening to yourself or listening to your heart rate or listening to your breath, that there's that its pulsing is a kind of pulsing that occurs in the music. And I know that there's like, you know, had the help with the minimalists, so like, you know, of course that's a thing that they're into. And of course, like, you know, I feel like as we're looking at these repeated notes, I kind of see it. But at the beginning, you know, with the kind of heart rate affecting entrance, I'm wondering too, is there another, is the additional, what's the word? What is the word? Like, I'm just making a hand motion. It doesn't make sense.
Alignment?
Yeah, or like is like surface or something. Like is like do we want to be able to perceive as the audience that there's this kind of like perceptual exercise that's kind of happening with the players that is then affecting the music. Otherwise, you know, like for example, like if someone like was hearing it, would they be like, I suspect that the heartbeats are heart beating, or would they be like, oh, you know, like yeah.
Sounds like this performer definitely has a pulse.
Yeah, right. Thank God.
Yeah. So that's another thing that I've waffled on a lot is if I have a friend who makes these microphone stethoscopes, cool. And she's done some beautiful heartbeat pieces too. And I tossed around the idea of like if they're really audibly playing, if the sound needs to happen. And then if that's in there, then maybe the breathing needs to happen. And then I get kind of hung up on this, like how it becomes so like obvious in a way, or like it becomes it borders on, for me, like I know it's done really well in a lot of ways, but it can border on cliche sometimes of like it's this and this, and having that element of like it's not quite visible, but like something is making them out of sync, but you're not sure what, and then they're like getting out of it and then they get back into it. But yeah, it is torturing me a little bit, and that it's not, that the sound is not there. And maybe it's a matter of like trying it with and like listening, doing a mock-up and seeing what that sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, and I think one thing too here, like with kind of pieces that are focused on, I don't know if the word is right, but like embodiment or something, or like engagement with the body. It's just that like, and perception as well as a kind of tool to affect like musical parameter or entrance or whoever, is also, the other thing I want to say is that like this is stuff that I've touched before and like, you know, like played with, and so it's exciting to talk about it. And so if anything I say is like feels prescriptive or something, like it's literally just like my own.
Oh no, not
whatever.
at all.
But and so like one thing that occurs to me with 4 pianos is that we have 4 massive bodies that are being engaged kind of quite, you know, traditionally, or, you know, however, and, you know, the idea of preparing them to kind of affect that body is really exciting. I guess I'm wondering, is there also a way in which like, and maybe I am making too many parallels between things like breath and things like resonance and things like decay, where like there's always, you know, in the sense that I feel like we're always intaking out, like outtaking. I feel like piano, we're always decaying, like even from the attack. And so like maybe like I don't know, like it feels like there's like that. Oh my God, why do I keep forgetting the word? Like that maybe like dimension that could be kind of like pushed into a little bit. That could also maybe like serve some of the purpose that we're talking about of like either highlighting directly or indirectly or opaquely or transparently or however we want to talk about it. The relationship between a kind of like birhythm and like structure or material or alignment or however we're talking about stuff. Does that?
Yeah. Now that is very interesting because it would be very cool to figure out how to make the piano really sound like a heart somehow, so that when they're playing it, it sounds, it makes a little bit, that it makes that same connection that like playing their amplified heartbeat would make. Like they're somehow like like manually amplifying their heartbeat. And then I started thinking about fans on the piano and like blowing little things that across the strings, and how that's kind of like breath-like. I think it's maybe too much to be like blowing something and playing and like trying to, it's a lot to do in a moment, but yeah, that's a really interesting idea, is treating the piano body in a similar way, in a way that mirrors what's being asked of the performer's body. Yeah, that's a beautiful way to think about it.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting. Oh, question: do we know, does heartbeat have pitch? Question mark. Or are we just saying it's like an inharmonic?
I think it has low. I think it does have a low. It would have a low pitch, right?
Maybe. I for some reason I like, you know, I don't want, you know, in the sense of like cliche and stuff, I always like the most obvious thing often, which like, I don't know, whatever. But so I'm like, ooh, could we like hear the heartbeat and then it could like be put into the piano or something? Like is there a way to like is there a transference that's happening other than just like a parallelism? Is there like a way in which there's a kind of like transmission or transferal or like energy that's happening? Because we of course have it when we have the transduction of score and stuff, but we also have it with like the actual playing of the piano and like the way in which motion is. I don't know, like I'm just like, is there something?
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I'm like taking notes here.
No worries.
Yeah, it is different than parallel. It almost makes me want to write like 5 different piano pieces that like are, I don't know, there's so many different ways to go to it. But yeah, maybe the heartbeat doesn't have to go the whole time. And maybe the breath doesn't have to also be, I think part of it is like the sound of, like when you're trying to amplify breathing and it's just like kind of clipping and it's just hard to like, where do you put the mic and like how do you, it's just such a headache. And anyway, that's something to think about too. Is a little bit of the challenge of doing that, which would be different than heartbeat challenge stuff. So.
That's interesting. I mean, sorry, I just want to keep talking about this forever. Is there also, I don't know, I don't want to like make it too theatrical or anything, but just like, again, I think that there's really something special in the conception of like trying to bring bodies closer and align things, and not like forcibly, but just like with like the proximity and our perception see alignment. Whether there's also a kind of like, I don't know, whether there could also be a participatory aspect of it, where like, you know, like in the idea that like breath itself is like difficult to mic, like it could start with breathing, or it could, you know, and that I know like it fits cliche sometimes, but like I think when it's done well can like if it's done well and isn't too like choppy, like all right, we're breathing. All right, now we're playing piano. Like, like not that it's that, but it's like, but that
Yeah.
somehow like there's like, or like exhalation or like interaction with like what timing might mean with with an inhale and an exhale pattern or something. Like everyone's in count 4, out count 8 is going to be different. Is there an element to which alignment or disalignment of that within the context of like 4 pianos starting something or being in the middle of something or also like the possibility of letting the energy lie for a moment. I don't know. It's stuff I touch really carefully. Sorry. No, go.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I think I'm just like, it's stuff I touch really carefully because it like, it's like really bad if done badly, but like I think really, really beautiful if done well and like with respect and with like something, with something.
Yeah. I love that example of, and the guy has such a long name, I forget. No, it's not Dick Raymacher, is it? Where he's getting on the bike and everything is hooked up but he's in total slow motion and you just hear his heart just like practically exploding out of his body while he's like trying to move as absolutely slowly as possible. There's something about like a task that is somehow like regulating or affecting how your body is going to respond. So like at the beginning, like breathing a few times together, because so it's going to be recorded.
Ooh, okay, yeah, sorry, that's also another question, but please, yeah.
Yeah, so like I also always think in like very like what's going to happen on the stage and where are they going to be and who are they going to look at, and none of that. I'm thinking now just like, okay, it's recording. How's it going to be? How's it going to sound? And so thinking about that has been kind of a challenge for me a little bit. So thinking about the way that it transfers, but breathing at the beginning to like reach that equilibrium, because you always know something's going to happen at the beginning where somebody has to like run and fix a thing. Is important. So yeah.
I feel like that's interesting. And I mean, there's so many kinds of ways in which that, I think the recording aspect kind of opens up the question to me as well as like what would a recording, like how would it touch the piece, or like how you're thinking about it, because it feels like something that like, I don't know. Sorry, I don't know if science. Is our resting heart rate the same every single day? Like, is there like is
Probably
there a kind
not.
of right? I'm not sure. I kind of assume non-consistency with when it comes to bodies. But yeah, and I mean, and so and then like also like, is there a change between one person overdubbing it versus 4 people, and like I don't know, it feels exciting like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing these ideas, and it was great to get your feedback. It gives me lots of, I think like a really important through line to not push to the background and keep considering. So thank you.
No worries. Thank you. No, and thank you for sharing. This is and thank you for sharing something that's so fresh. We love like the freshness. There's a quality to being able to kind of talk about something that's like not quite done, that I feel like opens something really nice. So thank you so much for bringing it.
Thanks. My pleasure.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. That was so cool to get to look through that and hear about it from your perspective instead of just like seeing it on the page. Yeah, really cool. I'm excited to hear how it eventually takes shape and what it becomes. So before we move on to our last composer, I will Oh, Julie's already gone. I was going to say, if either of the other mentees have any questions for Julie, they could just pop on right now. But if not, it's okay. Whatever you all prefer to do. And we're just going to take a tiny little break. So actually, why don't we'll take a little 1 minute pause or intermission or whatever. The other two mentees can think about whether they have any questions. And when we come back, we can either move to those or to our last piece. All right, so we do have one question. So we can bring Julie back on stage to hopefully answer that question. And Connie is going to ask a quick question.
Yeah, so because all the pieces that you've shown through the masterclasses have have to do with breath and pulse, and I know that that's something that you're really digging into, which I think is really cool, just that 1 inch wide, 1 mile deep kind of feeling. I was wondering how the recorded sound or what the piece sounds like affects your process, because in some of the pieces there are recordings and then this one not yet, so I was wondering if they're different across those pieces, or just how you're interacting with that part of the process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Because sometimes with I'm doing this concept, things can sound you can sometimes sacrifice how it sounds. So I do, I play piano, so I like to play it through, and I have some parts, the parts that don't have anything to do with pulse or breath that are in the piece that are there just because I really like the way they sound and I think they're pretty. So I kind of am wedging those in and thinking well, it doesn't really fit the concept, but I like the way it sounds and it feels like it needs to go there. So I try to have a little bit of both. I'm not a very strict, this is my form and this is my process, I'm gonna do it that way. Yeah, I'm pretty loose with that stuff, for better or worse. So, yeah.
Cool.
Thanks for asking.
Thanks.
And then Diana, if you want to come on stage, Diana says that she does not have a question, but she has compliments, which are always welcome here. So,
oh, so nice.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, like, I just think your process looks so cool, Julie, and like all of the pieces that you've shown. Just like, I don't know, it's just so cool to like see like how you're thinking about music, and I really think it's cool like how you're thinking about breath and like heartbeats in relation to it. I just think that's just such a cool idea, and I'd really love to hear your piece once you get it all put together and everything. I think it would be it looks like it would be really cool.
Oh, well, thank you. And really likewise, Diana. It's been really great to hear your music, and Connie's, who's gone right now. But it's been really cool to get to know your music on such a level of seeing so many different pieces and really hearing you talk about where you're coming from with them and this new direction that you're exploring. So the feeling is mutual. And also, we could phrase our compliments in the form of questions so that they're questions and compliments. All right. Thank you.
I love it, and I will use this opportunity between composers to just put in a small little plug. If you're watching this and you liked hearing Julie and Diana talk about, getting to learn about each other's music over the course of these, and you haven't watched our other master classes, they're still online, so you can go back and listen to other pieces that all of these composers have written, each of them presented on a different piece for each masterclass, so you can hear a variety of stuff that each of them have written. But let's move on to our last mentee. So let's bring Connie back on stage and we'll hear about her piece.
Hi.
Hi, mentee. No.
Hello.
Oh, could you tell us the title of your piece? It's a really gorgeous title.
Thank you. Let me I don't even have it pulled up right now. Okay. My piece is called Nighttime Renewals Toward More Friendship, More Love, Like Snowfall, I Want to Sing With You. I'm giving it a try, like the long title.
It's
vibes.
So beautiful. It's so beautiful. No, long title. We need more long titles in the world. People have opinions about long titles, but I think long titles are good.
Okay, thanks.
Of course. Should we listen and then chat, or how
yeah, so there are two like pieces of audio. The first is just some like improv stuff that I passed back and forth with my friend who's like doing this piece with me. And the kind of like harmonic / melodic material from that is from the piece that I showed at at the first masterclass. So if anyone remembers that, it's fine. But yeah, and so then it like kind of progressed a little bit, and then I made this the second audio piece. So I was thinking we could listen to the improv one first since it came first. Yeah. quite an abrupt end there.
I liked it. Oh my god, that's so gorgeous. And so hold on, so there's this like beginning part, and so you kind of like musical telegrammed to this next one, right? Or yeah, what's the relationship between the two again?
Yeah, so I think the kind of core of the piece is like this space of, yeah, as the title suggests, like the space of renewing a relationship or like reestablishing the possibilities of that relationship through making sound together. Specifically, I've been thinking a lot about like, yeah, the quiet moments at like the parties that my parents used to throw, where they're just chatting about life, like the adults in the adult room, and like, they'll break out the karaoke machine, and like they'll sing these like incredibly cheesy songs. And so because of that was like kind of the space that I was thinking about, like doing that with a friend, especially like since we're both like of Chinese descent, and like we kind of share those kinds of like memories and feelings around like building relationship that way. Even though like the way our parents did it was not like, they didn't go to like music school or anything, and we're thinking about this in like we're like collabing or whatever. But yeah, so the next track is just a very preliminary, like me messing around with one of like the classic Chinese karaoke songs and just like stretching the time in order to like make a different kind of space. Yeah, I talked for a long time there, but yeah, that's what we'll listen to next. Is there more? I think there's more, but it's okay. You can also stop.
Okay. Okay. Looks like maybe the file was 40 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
But
classic.
No, that's
of course I would do that.
Yeah, I feel it. Okay. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And then is it okay? Could we do you want to look at the score? Or would you prefer we just talk about it? I'm very happy with either.
I would want to talk about it. We can look at it for like a second.
Cool. Yeah,
but then the rest of the time it can just be on the title page.
Okay, cool. No worries. Okay. Do you mind if I read these out loud?
Sure. Go for it.
Okay. So the moon represents my heart, backing track 20 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds, extended into drone distorted track, free improv 1 to 2 minutes, following the other player, then switch, gradually move to a small quiet space, 2 minutes. Wheel of voices, hums between playing and smiles mid phrase. Love it. 30 to 45 seconds. Okay. And that's sweet. Okay, and that's the beautiful. Okay, cool. Yeah. Amazing. So yeah, I mean, I know that we of course have talked about this before, but so if any of the questions I ask sound like I'm like being like, is for the benefit of our viewers and our community. So yeah, I mean, I think that you know the I'm trying to think whether to ask a question or whether to make an observation. The two modes. Yeah. So I mean, would you talked a little bit about the kind of like cultural context of like karaoke machines and of like this project in particular.
Yeah.
Is there it also, like, I think to me, anytime I hear things slow down or I hear even just like the beginning track where was it overdubbed, like multiple parts you play? Okay, yeah, I think even with that too, there's like this, like, I don't know what to call it, but it's like almost like it feels like it's engaging with memory a little bit. But but that's just like my kind of maybe like developed semantic understanding of it. But it also, I think, is within the qualities of like what you've chosen as well. So I guess I was wondering, like, how, I think with the instructions that we saw, it was very kind of either interactive or like talking about like how to what the instructions are to play with other folks or to play with the track or whatever. But is there also an aspect of like recalling or like memory, and like does that interact at all with how you're thinking you or Yang Chen or whoever might interact with the piece in the future? And then the continuation of that is what then, how then does memory in all its different forms for different people maybe touch some of this stuff, I guess. I don't know. Abstract.
Yeah, definitely interacting with memory, definitely thinking about not only like friendship, but also like the parental relationship, familial relationships, and like that. When you were speaking just now, I kept thinking about like this thing that I heard Ocean Vuong say one time, which is that like whenever we recall something, like that's an act of creation, and it's not just like, yeah, you're like bringing it into the present. And so, yeah, definitely just interacting with that song too, that specific song. And yeah, I think that, yes. Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, I am getting a little bit stuck, I think, on because I keep thinking about how specific this piece is for me and Yang, that like when I have like been sitting down to write and add to like the text, I just think about like our specific performance situation, since we're going to be like sending things to one another, and then I'm like, oh, what's the parameter that like fits that, rather than being like, what could I play around with that is not just like catering to the specific situation, like can be applied for like more people should they want to interact with that. Also haven't decided if I would prefer that it stays between us. So yeah, definitely still thinking about that.
Right. I mean, I think that interacts like a lot with like what we were seeing in terms of like what the textual instruction was. Like in particular, where like things like improvise have like kind of rightfully so a kind of large umbrella of meaning and umbrella of practices, but it does feel like there is a kind of like I think I overuse this word, idiosyncratic, like something that's like kind of the kind of relationship and narrative that we're also understanding, like hearing you talk about the piece in terms of like it's like where it's coming from, the kind of and like the specific kind of music that it's engaging in those memories. I have a couple questions. One of which is I think when you were talking to when you were speaking about the kind of partitioning between like you as a young person and parents as adult time. It made me think a little bit about like I don't know how to, you know, I guess I'll just say it, is that it almost sounds like when I'm listening to the fixed media track that you sent, that I'm hearing it distorted through distance as well as time.
Yeah.
And so like I feel like there's also like this kind of remnant of this kind of old positioning of youth, and then like kind of this reflective engagement that is happening as part of the project. And so I guess I'm just wondering, like, is there and I guess like thinking about how this might occur in real life, it almost makes me sound like, you know, or it makes me think about like things where like something is playing from another room as part of a performance, like where like there's also this kind of integration of like of original context that both like materially and sonically affects like how we might be kind of hearing and engaging with the thing. Or with the song, sorry, not the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait. So was the question like, is that?
Oh, I don't know. I like, you know, ... question mark kind of thing. Like, is there a kind of in the sense that we're talking about memory and we're talking about like, yeah, like, and I think the Ocean Vuong that you talked about is very true. That and that like even in the act of writing this down, you're also kind of engaging and bringing back to life these things, and through the kind of transmissive process that you're talking about with Yang, that there's also something there. So I'm just like, there's all these like, I don't know, like threads and streams of things, and I'm kind of like, where like you have so many possibilities that like I don't know if you necessarily need to like define the whole thing now, I guess. Like in terms of like, it is existing right now as a remote, you know, sending tracks back and forth thing.
Yeah.
But you know, but I think like as maybe you do it, maybe it'll continue to kind of show the forms and ways it might manifest in different contexts. So I don't know. Maybe that's a question.
Yeah, like that's very true. Like yeah, I was, for a second we were going down the direction of like to actually interact with the karaoke machine, and I would love to go down that avenue and explore it a bit more. I guess this was like specifically, I just went to like YouTube to MP3, did a little conversion with the karaoke track, and just like plopped it into Ableton. So yeah, like there's that too. And then yeah, even like the distance with time with like the instruments that you can like hear in the track. I don't know. I feel like I'm just adding on to what you're saying, but yeah.
No, totally. Yeah, I mean, I think one thing we were hearing too is like the kind of, you know, it felt like we were having these like very lyrical interactions between the violin and the voice, but with the percussion, you know, with those kinds of like tremolo and stuff, it did remind me of some of the kind of distortion that we were getting in terms of some of those like skips. Or it wasn't quite skips, but it was like kind of things that we're getting before it kind of opened back up again. So I mean, I feel like that's also like a really solid kind of way to build a methodology or vocabulary, or however you want to talk about it for the piece, is like, you know, you're interacting with this track, and then like through how it transforms with touching it, like you gain kind of a musical vocabulary that then you can kind of bring into however, you know, that happens. And that to me opens up a process, you know, opens up the idea of a process that others could go down, of interacting with a thing in a specific sense, and then through the what's the word, through the end product, I don't like that word, but like through the kind of thing that's like, you know, out on the other side of it, I guess. Use that as a kind of reference point to kind of start to build some of the sounds. And then like I don't know, to me, like all of these processes that we're talking about kind of like they all like are, I don't know, whatever this motion means, like you know, they're kind of circling and engaging with each other in really kind of open bad ways.
Ah,
And sorry, so also I talk a lot, so if you ever like you can be but is there also like a I know that we're talking about a specific song. Can A, you talk about the selection of that song, and then B, the kind of genre or context that it might be in that like others could also draw other songs from, like you know, is question mark.
Yeah. Well, the song, as I read about it on Wikipedia very quickly, like yesterday, it was written, like, it became popular like around the close of like Cultural Revolution. I believe it was written by Taiwanese musicians or like artists, and so it was considered a foreign song for like China. And then as the Cultural Revolution kind of like dwindled down, like it became a very like more foreign like pieces of art were like introduced or like accepted back into like the offerings in like the cultural environment. And I'm not exactly sure like what it was that like elevated it to like the status that it has, but it's just like, it's basically a song about like the beginning lyrics go like, you ask me how deep my love for you is, and it's like, yeah, the moon represents my heart, and like think about it, look at it, the moon represents my heart, and it's like this extremely like cheesy, like overly sentimental ballad like song. So I think that in that sense, like it could open up for like other song selections, because I'm sure that such examples exist, you know, across various cultural experiences. But yeah, like, yeah, just that whole space of like how on the surface level, like overly sentimental can create space for like the earnest kind of like declarations of affection, like, you know, can take place. Yeah.
Ooh. That's such a sweet thought. Such a sweet thought. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I've never thought about one creating the space for the other. I think that that's a really huh. I mean, because it definitely felt that. I mean, and the order in which we listened to the tracks, I think, also contributed to that feeling a little bit of like being able to find parallels, and also like, you know, the kind of recording that we were hearing with you is like it felt very close and stuff, and you know, and so I think there's also it's interesting also like just the idea of like creating by kind of manipulating this track and opening the space for it to affect, you know, stuff. You know, I feel like that's being done in, you know, in a kind of technical or like prescribed way. And that then there's this other space for kind of the opportunity for like spontaneous affection, or like of like, you know, being able to imbue single moments within that, instead of I guess instead of like it being just a reflection of like a kind of process of manipulating audio or something. What was I gonna say? You know, one thing that also that I also wanted to ask about a little bit is just the duration, because like 5 minutes, like, you know, it feels like it could be a long thing. And I mean, and I think also this like goes a little bit into other conversations we've had, which is just like a little bit of a thought exercise about where this might live or how it might live. Because listening to it and looking at it and also hearing you speak about it makes me almost like want it to be like an installation or something, where like we see the material, like the material of the like the karaoke machine, and then there's also this like, you know, this like kind of I'm using the word like stochastic, but I don't think it's like a good word or a right word. But like, you know, like through the process of touching the thing, also like having that affect the space, and then also this live component of stuff. So I think that that's where I'm like, yeah, I don't know, like because to me, like this feels like something that could either loop or it could like last for a really long time. Because especially when you're like stretching things out, like suddenly that song is like 20 minutes or something. And like, you know, I think that there's value in like just taking a portion of that and saying, okay, this, you know, 30 seconds equals this entire thing. But I also think that there's value in a kind of in leaving that the manipulation of duration alone, and actually having that duration be a parameter that you're kind of engaging with, like creatively, interpretively, and then also, I don't know, contextually. I don't know. I feel like I'm saying a lot of words, but like it's inspiring thought, I guess. Is the
Yeah, for sure. I think I just because it kind of grew out of this like, oh, Young's gonna like apply for this grant. So like I was like, okay, so like 5 minutes, I guess, is like what we're working with. But for sure, I definitely agree. Because like I started stretching it in Ableton, and I was like, okay, this is it's getting long. Yeah, and I think also I for a second was like, what if I wrote like a really sappy pop song? And it's like, you know, kind of that like duration of it too. But I feel like it'd be really cool, and even like with the distortion, like the mode that it's in right now, like you can still hear like little moments of the actual track. And I was thinking about like those strange like stock karaoke visuals, and like how that could like go along with it too. Yeah, so I for sure feel you on the whole duration / multi-sensory nature of the installation.
Yeah, and I mean it's so dynamic too. Like it also could be an album, it could be a lot of things, because it feels like there's like so much kind of material that's there to kind of interact with. And so I you know, I don't mean to say that in terms of like this needs to be big, let's make it super big. But you know that that it feels like it has the capacity to have different vessels and different containers and different shapes. Especially with I mean, I also really love the idea of like, if there is a performance of this, having there be this kind of like, you know, I think with fixed media and live performance, sometimes there's like, one of the tricks is the kind of like proximity of those things orally, and in terms of like the perception of an audience in terms of like a smooth conglomerate texture or something, or however. And so like the idea that there's kind of multiple containers for engaging that same idea, like, and sorry, I'm just saying all the things around. I think a song would be a cool idea in the thing, you know. Yeah, so that's, yeah, I wonder. Yeah, or like a chaconne that's based on the mode that's like, like I don't know, like it just makes me like think of like all these different kinds of like, because it also feels like we're playing with genre a little bit, and not in like a genreless world. I don't know, like not in the like sense of like trying to frame it in a certain way, but just that like genre is something that is touching this in multiple fashions, like the genre that it comes from, as well as kind of what you're making with it. And so I think maybe that's also like a oh my god, I keep forgetting this word, a frame to engage. I don't know, there's like a word for like a flat thing, but it doesn't need to be flat, but like something that you're touching and engaging with. Not facade. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, so it also just like maybe that's also, you know, where some of that is, or like the idea of like, you you know, trying to sing along the original song to this stretched out thing, or, you know, or like trying to sing it really slowly to the stretched out, like that there's, I don't know, or singing it and then stretching it out to the thing itself actually as well. Like the idea of like also placing yourself near that. Near stuff. Okay, I'm sorry. I've just had a million ideas. I feel like we're just doing our
well, we could do
like,
this.
A million days. Okay, let me see. It looks like really gorgeous words, Connie, says Rylan Gleaf.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Rylan. I know that we're kind of in nearing the end of our official time of things. Do we, Sash, or are we? No, hold on. I feel like we were running late. Like we were at 1:10 when we started. So okay, so actually we're good. Does anyone, do any of our other mentees have any questions for our amazing Connie? But also that's, you know,
or not.
As people come up with questions on the fly is also a little iffy sometimes.
It's hard.
Ooh, hold on. Julie says surely. Okay. Julie, would you like to come on? Yes.
Hey, cool sounds, cool piece, and really interesting possibilities. I guess my question is kind of about, I think my main question about, after just listening to it, is about scale. And I wonder if you like close your eyes and picture like maybe even the first piece, like how long you really like see it taking up in space, if that makes sense.
The first piece that we listened to just now, or hello? I think she's.
Everybody just froze in that moment. I was like, wow, they're really gonna close their eyes and do it right now. Yeah, I just wonder like where you see it going in terms of duration. And I know there are a lot of ideas that you all were workshopping, but I wonder if you just like feel it right now, like what you think.
I don't know. I think that like if it were just it's 5 minutes, that I would be thinking about scale in terms of like a whole show. Like it feels like I just keep thinking about like the space that I want to create, like and like so if it was 5 minutes, I would be like, oh, it would be like at the end, like it would want it to be in a space where it's like dwindling, a part of a larger dwindling, you know, that's not only in the piece itself. But if it were like longer, then it would, but I don't know. I also am like getting a bit iffy on like, you know, wanting to like recreate something, you know, because I keep thinking about like parts of my memory and cultural memory, but how to like be more not intentional, just more like specific about the line between like creation and then like recreation. I don't feel like I'm answering your question, but yeah. Does that make sense?
That's really beautiful thought. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. Yay.
Yeah, I had a thought, but keep going.
Hi Connie.
Hi.
I just have some compliments to say. I really I think your piece is sounding really cool so far, and I just want to say like how cool it is, like how personal it is to like your experience and like your relationship with your friend. I think that's like super special, especially because you guys are going to be performing it together, and I think it's a really, really cool piece. And I like all of your ideas so far.
Oh, thanks, Diana. I'm a big fan of you as well.
Thank you.
Since everyone is here, you know, this can be as structured or as freeform as you all want. But I at least noticed, you know, that it's funny how this happens, you know, on these master classes, because everyone just submits whatever they want to submit. But it's funny how there will be these sort of common threads, you know, between everyone's work. And today I'm just noticing like how much, you know, 3 very different pieces, but this sense of like, we keep coming back to this idea of like space, you know, and how much space is being created. And I feel like that was really strong in all of your pieces. And I just think that was really cool. It made for a nice little program. And so I don't know if anyone has any thoughts about that or thoughts about anything else, you know, like since we're all here, we can have a little conversation if you want about whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think with all 3 pieces, I just got the sense that they could go on forever, which like isn't like, you know, is never like, I feel like when I was a student, like my teachers would like wrap my knuckles for that. They'd be like, you need structure. If it feels like it, you know, it can last forever, then you haven't done your job. And I like thoroughly disagree with that. And like really appreciate the kind of, I don't know, it's like not like modular or something, but it just feels like, again, scale is this thing that can kind of breathe a little bit instead of just kind of be like, be just like so defined that it doesn't, you know, doesn't do whatever. Yeah, and I will say like sorry, I took that as cue to reflect on this a little bit. But I'll just say it was also like really kind of really cool to, I don't know. I don't know. I think I'm going in the more like it was cool to interact with all of you a bit. Of just like, I think like I really appreciated the willingness to kind of talk about concept and like process and kind of creative process. And parallels between kind of thought and like what we're hearing in music, because I often find that I'll ask that question sometimes and I'll get like really blank stares and I'll feel really bad for asking the question, like maybe I shouldn't have. So I really appreciated that we're able to talk about, yeah, like process and where this is all coming from and kind of, you know, where it might go. And, you know, it also, you know, I feel like aesthetics are like a difficult and strange thing to talk about sometimes, but I really appreciated you bringing that up, Diana, because I think it is something that we like touch and like interact with, but like often don't kind of name and talk about. And the same thing with Julie and talking about cliches and stuff when it comes to some of these tools and yeah, I don't know. It was just you know, general thank you. Yeah, okay. But also please say other things. Yeah.
I'll maybe just reflect to Connie and Diana. Listening to your pieces, I had this feeling with both of them that I wanted them to go on for a very long time, and they also made me feel like physically better. And I'm reading this book, Theaters of the Body, which is, I'm just starting it. I'm not sure where exactly it's going, but it's kind of about how like your body will sometimes manifest things that are going on psychologically. Like the guy uses an example of he used to get a rash every time he would see his grandmother, just because he was like afraid of her. And yeah, so I was just thinking about how, yeah, your pieces had the opposite effect of the rash, and I was just feeling like really, yeah, I was just feeling really, yeah, relaxed and well in those moments. And so you created spaces that like felt good on a physical level. So, and it maybe had to do with like the overtones in your piece, Diana, or like the drone in that first clip you played Connie is just really like, yeah, just okay. Now I'm rambling, but just wanted to reflect that back, which had exactly to do with what you were saying, Megan, in terms of like time and scale. So.
All right. Well, these are a lot of, very large concepts. So I understand if at the end of 2 hours, my head is full of thoughts, but, maybe not so much able to articulate them. But I just want to echo Inti's big thank you. Like, thank you to all of you, all the mentees and Inti as well, for just some like wonderful conversation and sharing of your music. There's a little link on the screen, which will also be put in the chat if you want to learn more about this program and everything that is going on. One last time, our two public virtual events coming up are our last two virtual solo instrument composition workshops for cello and saxophone. Those are on November 23rd and December 7th, both of them at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. So you can join us for those. You can go back and watch previous events that are still linked on our YouTube and our Facebook page. And you can always stay up to date with everything we're doing on social media, on our website. And just thank you all one last time. This was great.
Thank
Thank
y'all.
you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes. All right.